Welcome to the Grit and Grow podcast, where we talk to guests who are pursuing excellence in both sport and life, who encourage and motivate us to become better mentors, coaches, parents, and athletes. My name is Shane Sowden, head men's basketball coach at Briarcrest College, and also your co-host.
And my name is Justin Simpkins, co-host and director of Prairie Hockey Academy. Welcome back to the Grit and Growth podcast for part 2 of our episode with Lisa Thomaidis. In part 2 of our episode, we talk with Lisa about the impact of competitive intensity and internal leadership on your team. We also get to discuss what it's like coaching the Olympics and other international events. I hope you enjoy today's episode with Lisa. I've talked to Gardner McDougall, who's winningest coach in U Sport.
Yes.
And GMAC's just a fascinating individual. But, he would talk about his practice intensity was something that he had to build and create. And there's like no whiteboard time. Like he instills pace and competition, that kind of like that battle and that war. And sometimes fights break out in practice. Inside of it, it's not encouraged, but sometimes it can happen. But he's like, if you're a freshman and you're not ready for our practices, like you're going to fall behind real fast.
Yeah.
Because there's not these breaks, and we build our practice to play the same way as our game. So
yes,
as you've started to bring on these athletes, has that allowed you to even change your expectations and standards?
Just thinking about that story, I'd say the last couple of years, probably the last number of years, like that 2020 team, but even these last few, just the level of compete, even summer scrimmages. I think one thing our team really had to address was keeping it on the court. And because it would get so heated and they would take it off the court, they would be pissed if their team lost or if someone scored on them or whatever. And I was like, wow, we're really getting somewhere. If this is what our team has to address, is just, being able to separate and not have it cross over into our personal lives or our friendships. Like that's really something. I think that's really special. It's not very common that you have that many competitors that go that hard, especially in summer scrimmages. But it just goes to show that's why our team won this year, is because they were very, very driven. They wanted to get better. They didn't look at summer scrimmages as just a way to get a run in and, get some cardio and some fitness. It was actually for us to get better. And again, that comes from, I think, the internal leadership and Gage Grassick and Andy Dodig and the veterans that were there, and wanted to make sure that we didn't lose by 3 in the final again.
Right.
It was the first time that happened, and I don't know if it was just this past summer, but your story just reminded me of just in April here, we had a week left before final exams. I wasn't there. The guys were just in our gym time scrimmaging. And the next day I hear about, so-and-so came to blows. And I was like, okay, what? And they're like, yeah, high school badminton was on the other side. And I was like, oh, and I'm just thinking damage control right away.
Yeah.
Right. Because these big, my big 6'7", anyways, these guys just going at each other. And then, so I, team meeting and everything the next day, we talked through it. But then I'm talking to all the guys and they're like, Coach, we're good. I'm like, well, because they again, like you said, they kept it on the court. And so even for me as a coach, I was like, had to take a step back, be like, okay, there could be some negative outcomes from this, but there's a lot of positives that we don't. Yeah. These guys want to stink and win. And they also knew, hey, we just won a championship, but there's roster spots open next year. And so to take a step back as a coach and be like, okay, let's make sure this doesn't get destructive. But at the same time, yeah, finally, because for how many years did you we just wanted to compete. Yeah. And then when it's finally there, you can't just shut it down.
No. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. When you get to that point, and I mean, I remember coaching Canadian national team, and the level of compete there was just wild. Like any sort of drill or breakdown that had a winner and a loser keeping score, it just became, they were trying to outsmart the game to win, even though it might not be the intent. The intent would be to work on a certain concept, but they were so competitive, it would, it wouldn't accomplish the goal of the drill because they would do things that just help them win the game. And I remember thinking, oh man, we got to really think about how to reverse engineer some of these drills to get what the intended outcome is, because they're just so competitive. And I feel like our team now is kind of at the same point. If anything is a breakdown to a winner and a loser, look out. Like there's some players that are just not going to lose.
Yeah.
And, in the past, I would say there'd be less than the majority of our team would be like that. You'd always have a few, but when you can get to the majority of your team that has that kind of mindset and drive, it's pretty special.
So as a coach, and like I want to segue into more like the Olympic team stuff with Canada and Germany. But like you just said, as you're tracking and keeping score, do you track daily, like all the different competitions, where it's a scrimmage or small sided game or whatever, or whatever it is? Do you track that as a program, or is it just, we're going to keep score, so there's a winner and loser, but do you keep track of the wins and losses throughout this, like the practice season?
Yeah, actually, we do it a lot in preseason. So like the first month, maybe we'll have like a win tracker. So we'll have the whiteboard out on the court. And everyone's name is up there. And if you're on a team that wins, you get a check mark. If you're playing one-on-one and you win, you get a check mark. Yeah. And it becomes very clear if people are uncertain about their role or where the pecking order is. It becomes very apparent after a couple of weeks when you've got someone's name and the board is filled up with check marks, and others where they've got a couple. And it really puts in perspective the importance of winning, competing. And so I think it helps if people are thinking, they're a certain role or they deserve to be here or playing above this person. Well, let's just have a look at that. We don't keep it all year though. Like we just usually do it at the beginning. We'll track other things though, or maybe it'll be just teams or whatever it is, like whatever's important, we'll track for that week or for a few days but I certainly found that to be helpful.
Oh, I like that, especially just in preseason. I found like the whole competitive cauldron, Anson Dorrance from North Carolina, that whole thing. It's a blessing and a curse. That sucker. Like you got to be ready for it. If you're going to implement it, you're like, okay, like this isn't just going to be like, hey, awesome, great job, you won. Like you're going to bring out the competitors. So you just noticed that difference when you started working with the national team, and you were an assistant coach for a number of years before you became the head coach. Mm-hmm. But did that switch? Like again, maybe just speak quick to like the opportunity to work with the national team and how that, like, what'd you learn from that and how that shaped how you started coaching your own program back in Saskatoon?
Yeah, I mean, that was transformational for our program. I say, when Ashley and Sarah joined our team, that was, I think, the same year I got my first opportunity working with the national team. And the opportunity to learn from probably one of the best teachers of the game in Canada with Alison McNeil and her husband, Mike McNeil, to work with them for 11 years. I mean, it's not a coincidence. That's when our team started to really climb. As coaches, especially back then, there weren't the resources online that you can access. You really were in a bit of a vacuum. You coached how you were coached. Maybe you got tidbits here and there from seeing someone else's practice or going to a coaching clinic, but you were really on your own. And so to get to work with them was incredible, and to travel around the world and to see what these other countries were doing and concepts that they were, their style of play, that was amazing for me to bring that back to our U of S team, because we were doing things that other teams in the country had no concept, had never seen before. So that really was just a great opportunity for me to learn and to help our program grow and develop and do some new things all the time.
Yeah, I think it's obviously spent a number of years with the national program, and then more recently as the head coach of the German national team. I've had some, tell us a little bit about that. How did that opportunity come available? What's it like taking them? I want to say that your first Olympic win took them to the quarterfinals. Talk to us about that experience.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I was an assistant for 11 years with Allison and Mike, and then took over as the Canadian head coach, and went to two Olympics, coached them for 8 years.
Wow.
Um, Certainly, the Tokyo Olympics were terribly disappointing. We had climbed to be the number fourth ranked team in the world in 2020. February 2020, we went to Belgium for the Olympic qualifier, and we went 3-0 there. We beat Belgium, we beat Japan, who were eventual silver medalists in Tokyo, and we beat Sweden. And so we were ranked fourth in the world, and we were poised. All the talk was we were going to be in the medal contention. We were in that conversation. We had set our sights on winning a medal, and then COVID hit less than a month later. And we proceeded to go 15 months without practicing together as a national team. And all the while, we knew that other national programs were practicing. They were training together. And so we were doing virtual training camps. Like, we did a whole week of, okay, our whole team was going to get together, and we went online and we spent time together, and we had some amazing IST members that were doing all the strength and conditioning virtually. Anyway, it was like an incredible journey. But in that 15 months, between when we had beaten those teams in Belgium and when we went to Tokyo, three of our starters became injured.
Right.
Our starting point guard had to retire due to injury. Our starting four was diagnosed with arthritis in her knee. She was a shell of herself. Our captain had given birth and was 3 months back from having a baby. Our whole team changed.
Right.
Natalie Achonwa was in the WNBA at the time and had torn her MCL and was literally cleared to play a couple days before our first game. And so it was a completely different team. And, but yet the expectations still remain the same. And
Right.
it was really, really tough. We were a couple points away from beating Serbia in our very first game. And had we won that, we would have been off to the quarters, and who knows what would have happened. But instead, we missed out on the quarterfinals by a point spread. And that's how it goes,
Mhm.
to win an Olympics or a World Cup, so much has to go right. You get the one opportunity every 4 years, and people have to be healthy. You have to be playing at your best. People have to be available. Yeah, and that difference of 1 year, I think, took away our opportunity to win a medal at the Olympics. It just changed everything. And so, yeah, then I was Canada Basketball and I were done. For me, I think there's some shelf life, right, to being a
Right.
head coach, and I'd been their coach for 8 years, and it was time for me to move on. That was a really um, disappointing finish. It wasn't feeling the same as it was earlier in my career. And so it was time to be done.
Mhm.
And, it'd been a long haul of 20 years with the national team. And every summer you're traveling, you're overseas, you don't have any time off. So I think I was, probably burnt out at that time as well. So I had a year off, and then, it was around April 2023, I got this email from Gordie Herbert, and I'd met Gordie a number of years back. I'd gone to, when I was still with Canada, I went to Toronto and watched the men's team training camp when Nick Nurse was the coach.
Mhm.
And Gordie was an assistant. And so we, spent a little bit of time together. And so Gordie was the coach of Germany at the time. And he sent me an email saying, hey, the women's program's looking for a coach. Are you interested? I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Germany, kind of similar to U of S, no idea, never heard of them
Yeah.
on the international scene. We had never played them. Canada had never played them. So I kind of look up where they at. They'd played in these windows, and they'd qualified for Eurobasket for the first time in 12 years or something. So I'm like, well, I think I could probably help them. Okay, it's going to be 6 weeks. We'll do what we can. I think we can help them with some reads. And so, yeah, we were a month away from getting together, and I decided, okay, well, I'll do this, thinking it was a 6-week gig.
Mhm.
I love Europe. Hey, why not? So, got our staff together, and it was an awesome staff. Claire Meadows, who was my full-time assistant at Sask, and now she's at Queens, and Anne-Marie Thuss, who'd been with Canada Basketball for a number of years. So you knew we were going to have a great time with the staff that we had.
Mhm.
And and I mean, the team performed so well. And at the end of that, they wanted to sign me through to 2026 to stay with the team. And at that very first Eurobasket, we didn't have the Sabalis playing with us, but we had actually two of the 3x3 players that won gold in Paris this past summer.
Right.
So they were on the team as well. It was just an incredible group. They were, again, very similar to my early days at U of S, just hungry to be able to compete.
Yeah.
They'd never been to Eurobasket. They were so cute. Like, we had already qualified to the Olympic qualifying tournament, and they wanted to go back and watch the medal games because they said all we would do was, watch these other teams in the past and watch Eurobasket and never be a participant. We want to take it all in and get everything from the experience that we can.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a fantastic group. And I thought, you know what, like, why not? Like, we'll do this for a few more years and see what we can do with this team. And since then we've got, now Leo and Niara were world champs with the New York Liberty last year. We've got Satu back in the fold. We qualify for the Olympic Games, like all these things that are history making. Like, the German national team had never been to the Olympics before. We're going to be hosting Eurobasket this summer, and then we're going to be hosting the World Cup next year. So it's just like, boom, like, it's just incredible what's happened.
Wow.
Like, you just kind of take a chance and decide to work with a team, and then it's just incredible what's happened in the last 2 years.
And Lisa, in the Olympics, I just forget, did you play Canada in the Olympics?
No, thank goodness.
No. Well, yeah, because I remember, like, it was interesting seeing Germany advance and them not. And I know they had some struggles and some injuries and all that kind of stuff as well. And there's always a little bittersweet, right? Like, those are your ladies,
Yeah.
that's your country, that sort of thing. But at the same time, like you said, there's a shelf life sometimes.
Yeah, it was really tough. Like, the beginning of the Olympic tournament, we were in Lille, and it was a satellite campus basically of the Olympics. So we weren't in the main village. It was just a basketball village. And so, I mean, every day you're walking by Giannis and you're walking by Jokic.
Oh, wow.
And you're walking by Team Canada. And, these players that you had been coaching for how many years, they're now your opponent. Thankfully, they were in a different pool and we didn't play them. But yeah, it was tough. It was close confines, and, you're fighting for your life. And as it turned out, we moved on to the quarterfinal, and I'm sure that was tough for them, and they didn't advance. And a lot of times, Canada was either playing right before us or right after us, and so again, there's a lot of walking by one another, which isn't great, doesn't feel good for anyone. But
Right.
yeah, but for us, I mean, we started off the tournament and we again beat Belgium, we beat Japan. Played a close game with USA and got through to the quarterfinals. And actually, our entire summer last year, the only two teams we lost to were the gold and the silver medalists from the Olympic Games. We only lost to France and we only lost to USA.
Right.
So that was pretty incredible feeling, and just kind of amazing what this team has done. And we're hoping to get to Eurobasket and compete for a medal this summer, which would be pretty amazing as well.
It sounds like we need to be watching Team Germany basketball this year.
Yeah.
They're on the rise for sure.
Well, anytime there's a little bit of a Canadian flavor, regardless of what country, it's always just like, want to check in and see.
Yes.
How's Lisa doing with the squad, all that kind of stuff. Because there's always some intriguing storylines, just like what you shared. And it's interesting. So, Lisa, I met a couple of your former national team players, the Plouffe sisters, over the weekend. That they were on campus for a youth conference we were hosting. And one of the aha moments I had, I was sitting with my wife, and I got to chat with them for about an hour in the morning. Like, great ladies, a lot of fun, really enjoyed making that connection. But what I realized, like, I'm 6'4". I'm a bigger guy. These were tall, strong women. That's all I'll say. And my wife's 5'3". And my youngest son has some basketball aspirations, all that kind of stuff. He's pretty good. But like, I have a few players that did really well this past year at the college level, and they're trying to go pro overseas and looking at opportunities.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to like encourage them, go for the opportunity, but at the same time, standing next to Catherine Michelle and be like, okay, this is the next level.
Yeah.
Like just the physicality, the size, the strength. I was like, you're bigger than over half my college team and you're
Yeah.
females. And so just it just made me understand like just the difference as you go up.
Yeah.
And so I've coached high school and college now, but like, what are some of the similarities and maybe some of the, like what's the same and what's different as you go from high school to maybe CCAA to U Sport to NCAA to professional overseas to Olympians? Like you've challenged yourself at these different levels and had success, but like, is the gap that different when you're coaching, or is it just what are the similarities? I'm just curious of your experience there.
Yeah. When you talk about the Plouffe, there's such an incredible story because,
Oh yeah,
like you said, like they're imposing women. Like when you watch them play 3x3, I remember
that's
a few years ago thinking they are the gold standard for 3x3. If you can get 6'4" that are skilled, they can shoot, they can defend, they can handle, and you've got two of them out there. And then, you bolster the lineup with a Casey Bosch and a Paige Crozon. I mean, they were just the gold standard. And
they make Paige look small. And I'm like, Paige isn't small.
Yeah. And they're Olympians in 5-on-5. And they're so interesting in that, from a challenging situation because, unfortunately, Catherine was cut from one of our teams. And that was kind of again, a pivotal moment for them. They decided that they were going to go the 3x3 route, which was the best decision that they ever made. They had to walk away from 5-on-5, but they made the decision to go to 3x3, and they were the best team in the world for a long time. And, again, you get to the Olympic Games and they unfortunately lost on some crazy end of game situations. It was like one shot here, one shot there, and they're medalists, which was really unfortunate and sad to see, but holy, like incredible competitors. But yeah, as you go up in level, what are the differences? I mean, for sure, it's the overall size and athleticism. I mean, just the physical part is just a whole step up. And then combine that with the skill level, right? And just like each one it's a compound effect because you've got more athletic, bigger, quicker athletes combined with an improved skill level. And so it's exponential. It's not just, they're bigger, stronger. No, they're this, but they're plus this.
Right.
And then the reason why they're at the pinnacle of their sport is because of this. And ultimately,
that's thinking the game.
That's the
separator.
Yeah.
It's either the compete factor, it's the composure, it's the self-confidence, it's the IQ for the game. It is all those things. So as much as the physical pieces, are the obvious ones, it is the mental part and that are the separators. And I mean, kind of same, you kind of dial it back and you kind of look at a Gage Agrasic, same thing, like physically doesn't pass the eye test, but you put her on the court and even though she's 5'7" or 6, whatever she is, she plays so much bigger. And then it's compounded because of her mental toughness, her self-belief, her ability to make decisions in small spaces. Like it's just, it's all of those things. So it's, how do you find those people? That's the one. I think that's the trick and the genius behind being able to recruit and find those special ones.
And the big question is how do you develop them, and can we? Can we develop them? Obviously, there needs to be some hard wiring, and maybe we can call it up a bit as a coach, right? But
absolutely. Trying to put them in an environment where they can just flourish and still be challenged and continue to grow. And it's a tough one. But for those special ones, they figure it out. Like they kind of figure it out on their own. When you put them in that position, they get the job done one way or the other.
Right. After all your accomplishments, Lisa, championships and awards and international success, I just kind of wonder what drives you still today. What gets you up out of bed every day and make you keep doing this?
Yeah. I think it's, why I did it way back when. It's the same motivator. It's just like to help these student athletes. Like, how do you help them succeed? How do you help them, um, achieve this level of success? Help them put in the work and feel proud of it, not just on the basketball court, but also in school, in life. At the Olympic level, it's like, hey, can we do something that we've never done before? Can we help you get to that next level? Yeah, so that really drives me, is just really to try and help them achieve some things that maybe they never thought would be possible.
And has it ever been tempting NCAA, WM, like pro ranks, maybe overseas, WNBA, or
Yeah,
like, again, you've been in Saskatoon now since '98. Not a
yeah,
lot of people like coming from Ontario and sticking Saskatchewan for that long.
yeah,
I'm sure you've had opportunities, but I'm just wondering, we just saw Dave Smart head down south, stuff
yeah.
like that. That's always been in the back of my mind. Is that something that's, you still have a lot of years left? Just wonder if
Yeah, the
that's
NC2A thing really has never been a draw. I think
no.
just my values really do not align with NC2A, especially the way things have gone now with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't stand recruiting in Canada, let alone, I mean, to lose your whole roster every year because they're transferring out, they're leaving, they're going
Oh
coming
man,
home.
we could talk about that forever.
Like, I love coaching and helping players get better, and to have that like long-term relationship with them, like over 4 or 5 years, to like have people coming and going all the time in and out of your program. That would be so frustrating. How do you ever build something? Because again, I love the build as opposed to just,
Right.
okay, get the next big star in for a year and do that. The build is where I find the challenge, and that's what's really rewarding for me. Um, yeah, so NC2A, that yeah,
Yeah.
it
No, I
wouldn't
hear you.
it wouldn't be a good fit for me. The pro thing, again, pros are different to deal with for sure. So who knows? I mean, I really like what I do because the people I get to work with every
Right.
day, the student athletes I get to work with, and then, like I said, the community has been so supportive.
Mhm.
Ron and Jane Graham, super supportive with our program, making it, the best situation in the country.
Right.
If you're a student athlete, if you're a basketball athlete, there's no better place in Canada to go to. You've got basically like a WNBA training environment.
Yeah.
With amazing fans that come and support you, and a lot more scholarship money than the 3,500 that I had in 1998. So yeah, there's not much to complain about at the U of S, that's for sure.
Well, and Lisa, there's one other thing I want to get to before we let you go here is again, I'm always watching, like when I'm watching games, I'm always watching how the other coaches interact with their players. Just trying to learn, just whether it's timeouts or when things are going well, things are going bad, whatever it is. And one thing I've always respected about you is that you seem just very calm. And I know I've had people say that to me sometimes, and I'm like, oh, you just seem calm all the time. But it's like, but on the inside, maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
Like on the inside, but I'm trying to put on I'm trying to be confident for my players in the midst of the
Yes.
situation. But I've never seen you scream at a player. I've never I see you celebrate when you win a big game near the end of the season, but everything else is like, okay, we did what we were supposed to do. Now let's just get better. It's very, this is what we're supposed to
Yeah.
do. But I've always
Seems
respected
intentional.
you. What's that?
It seems intentional, just how you
Yeah.
act, how you conduct yourself. Why
Yeah.
is that? What separates you? What drives you to be that way?
Um, I think I'm a little bit different from a personality perspective. I'm not as type A as many traditional or prototypical coaches would be. So I'm not wired real tight. I think I'm a pretty easygoing person for the most part. I mean, on the basketball court, I'm not easygoing, but just in general. And I think ultimately, like for student athletes that are any age really, especially women, they're trying to do the right thing all the time. and they're not trying to mess up. They're, ultimately they are just trying to do what you ask them to do. And so I just always found, if you want them to perform well, you got to support them and you got to celebrate them. And yeah, as much as I can help, hopefully give them some information to help make a change next time they're out there. I don't think attacking them, I don't think anyone's ever not giving their best or not trying their hardest. If that were the case, I think I'd get on someone, but I don't think I've ever had an athlete that isn't giving their best and trying their hardest. And so, we all want the same thing. And so how can we achieve that together is really to be more of in a supportive role or providing information that hopefully they can use, that they can be more successful the next time they're out there. So that's kind of my approach. I think young women, for the most part, like, confidence is a big thing. It's an issue. And if you're doing things to hurt their confidence, you're not being a very helpful coach. So you always have to be protective there and trying to build them up.
I appreciate that. We had a guest on who's a softball coach in the U.S. and she just talked about with young females that they have to feel good in order for them to play good, right? And so just that ability to encourage and to coach them up that way. But it's really good insight.
Well said.
This has been an awesome episode and time that we could just spend with you, Lisa. I thank you for just your humility, the ability to. I just felt the way that you honored not only a lot of your players in helping you build your program, but even some of the historical assistant coaches and people you worked with just really stuck out to me. I think it's people want to be part of the Huskies program for a reason, and you're a central figure in that. And so we're cheering for you. Keep doing what you're doing, and we're looking forward to a summer of German basketball, the Eurobasket.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Hopefully a few more fans, fans that are watching the Germans.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much, you guys. Really appreciate the time and the opportunity to share some of my story. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Grit and Growth podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's guest and the answers that they were able to give and the stories they were able to tell. If you did enjoy today's episode, we'd ask that you would just follow or subscribe to our podcast. It does help us get the word out and our message. Thanks again. Have a great day.